welcome to Keeping It Real Estate with Kristen. I'm Kristen Goyette. I'm a mortgage loan officer, and this podcast is about all things real estate. And the goal is to have all the disciplines on the show eventually: builders, realtors, home inspectors, appraisers, broker owners, investors, you name it. We're going to try to have them up here on the podcast. So please subscribe so you don't miss out. And with that being said, today I've got a special guest. I've got Mr. Stephen Ledford with Admired Builders out of Kinston, North Carolina. And I'm super excited to have you so we can talk about real estate from a different perspective, not just the realtors. So tell me about yourself and your journey into the real estate world or the builder world.
So I kind of fell in love with real estate from a point of view of investment properties.
Okay.
When I was really young, my in-laws had some rental property, so my wife and I, when we were dating, I would help him, my father-in-law, a lot with his rental properties, and just helping him, I kind of saw the value, in investment properties, and really kind of fell in love with taking something that was really worn out, and just kind of fixing it up, turning it into something that, somebody wanted.
Right. Bringing it back to life.
That's right.
All right. So tell us about your company, Admired Builders.
So we are a licensed general contractor. Primarily we do renovations.
Okay.
We do a little bit of new construction, but usually it's tied in with renovations.
Okay.
It's just kind of where we found our niche, what we enjoy doing.
Right.
We've kind of built our whole business model around it, really. So, we kind of specialize in that. We've got interior decorators that we work with.
Oh, okay.
And everything. So,
because I've been to your website, and some of your work is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah.
We put a lot into it. It's, like I said, it's something that we really enjoy doing. It didn't really start out that way. We started out kind of probably like most contractors, just doing, whatever happened to come up.
Right,
Maybe building a deck or an addition or, this, that, what have you. But it just seemed like life kind of took us in that direction. And, we just really kind of built a business around that, what we really enjoy doing. So,
well, I love that. You and I have talked before, and I've bought 4 homes now, and I love doing my version of a renovation. I don't have that professional touch that you guys have, but so I don't think you have too much competition out there. Not a lot of people are specializing in renovation, are they?
No,
yeah,
not really.
So you got a good thing going.
Yeah, not really. We didn't, like I said, we didn't start out doing that. We, I think it was Hurricane Florence. That was 2018, right?
Okay.
When it came through, and that was a really bad time, for everybody.
Right.
Did a lot of damage. It was a really, really sad time, honestly, to be a contractor.
Right.
It's not the way you want to make money.
Right.
Off of other people's misfortune.
Right.
And
that's a good point.
Yeah, but it honestly, when it came through, we found ourselves doing nothing but renovations. Mm-hmm. Anywhere from flooded houses to houses that the roofs had been blown off and rained inside. So we really kind of found ourselves for well over a year there doing nothing but interior renovation. Mm-hmm. So in that time frame, we really had kind of built our business around that whole thing, and we kind of looked at it from a standpoint of instead of making money off of people's misfortune, let's specialize in this and focus on people who have planned and budgeted for this.
Right.
It's a lot more exciting and rewarding when you're dealing with somebody who is looking forward to this,
Right.
And they've planned and thought it out, and they're prepared for it. They have the funds for it. It's not a surprise or anything like that. So,
right.
I guess Hurricane Florence is really kind of what caused us to shift directions, and we felt like most contractors do prefer to build houses, and that's
Right.
great because we need those badly.
Absolutely.
It's just something we kind of carved a niche in,
Yeah.
and really enjoy doing. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, it's your niche and it's a specialty, and we need somebody who can help salvage or whatever you want to say, older homes or aging homes and bring them back to life. And I personally love that. And I've been to your website and seen all your beautiful work. But what has been your biggest strategy in building such a successful business? Because I think last time we talked, you said you guys are about 6 months out, so there's no shortage on work and what you're doing. So that's awesome. So what's the key to your success, do you think?
Honesty, integrity, and quality.
Right.
I think we don't advertise really. I take that back. We do a little bit with New Snooze,
okay.
BJ Murphy and them.
Cool.
We've advertised with them since their inception.
Oh, nice.
We've just kind of kept it going
Yeah.
because we love to see people accomplish their goals and be successful.
Right.
So any way we can help with that, that's what we want to do. But most of our work comes word of mouth, networking,
Yeah.
Things like that. But I guess our strategy has been to just try to be honest with people,
Yeah.
and try to provide good quality work, give people reasonable expectations up front,
Right.
and set reasonable goals.
Right.
Really, that's been it, just trying to do what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it.
Right.
And that sounds simple, but it's extremely hard to find anybody who has had any dealings, in construction at all will tell you that. That's extremely hard to find. So that's more or less been it. And I think because of that, word of mouth and, which social media now and Google reviews, I mean, that
Right.
kind of is the new word of mouth now.
It is.
Those reviews matter a lot. So, our online reputation has certainly helped with that. Our social media, strategy.
Right.
We don't do a lot of advertising through social media. We just kind of try to put our work out there for people to see it.
Yep.
And let it speak for itself. So,
Right.
we've gained a pretty good following, on Facebook and
Cool.
things like that. So, but yeah, I mean, just like I said, honesty, integrity, and quality. We've
Right.
tried to focus on those things no matter what.
Right.
And it's easy to do those things when everything's going well,
True.
but when something's not going right, which
Can happen easily in
yes,
our
can
world.
easily happen in the renovation industry. Chances are things aren't going to go, exactly like you planned them.
Right.
And again, being honest with people, when that time comes,
Right.
and not trying to sweep things under the rug or, be dishonest with people about, whatever it may be.
Right.
We try to give people the truth, whether they like it or whether they don't like it.
Right.
Our goal is to make sure at the end of the day they have a good, solid product that we would want to live in.
Right.
So.
Yep.
And every contractor that we work with, we do a lot in-house, but we do, contract some out, to some of our contracting partners.
Okay.
Like drywall, electrical, of course,
Yeah.
things like that. But each and every person that we work with is somebody that would be allowed in my house and has been in my house, when
Okay.
I'm not there.
Your employees.
So, yeah,
you're
it's
saying.
people, it's people that we trust,
Right.
So.
And that's good. Construction workers are hard to find, but
They
you
are.
seem to have mastered that in your business. Like I said, being 6 months out and having such good reviews and a good reputation. So that's awesome. So when people come to you, I mean, are you the starting point for this renovation process? They come and talk to you and say, "This is what I want," or how does that process work at your Admire Builders?
So Tony Shirley is our project coordinator.
Okay.
Like we were kind of joking about before we got started, I'm more of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy.
Yes.
I don't do a whole lot of small talk. I'm more behind the scenes in the corner, strategizing and working there, doing the boring stuff, that nobody
gotcha.
wants to do. But no, Tony Shirley is our project coordinator. He is the one really who takes care of you from start to finish.
Oh, okay.
You know, he's the person that you talk to initially. If you call, Tony's going to answer.
Okay.
You're not going to get a secretary or answering service or something like that. Tony's going to answer the phone.
Nice.
And he'll be the one to go out, meet with you, kind of discuss your goals. You know, what is it that you're trying to achieve?
Right.
You know, do you have realistic expectations, you know, from the start, realistic budgets, you know, for what you're trying to do?
Right.
And if all that, you know, that stuff checks out, you know, then he'll sit down and kind of work up a quote, you know, try to put a budget together for you.
Right.
Present that to them, and, you know, if they're okay with that and want to, you know, try to move forward, then we start talking about scheduling. But yeah, I mean, I'm involved, but I'm more of a behind the scenes involved.
I understand.
Right. That's right.
Hey, those people are reported to. You're doing all the important behind the scenes stuff. So there's nothing wrong with that. How many families did you guys serve this past year?
Altogether, because we actually also have a seamless gutter business.
That's right.
Limitless gutters and drainage. You know, and it has a whole other set of, you know, people that are dedicated to managing it.
Right.
But altogether last year, it was about 400 families.
Wow.
That we served.
Wow.
Most of that, of course, you know, was seamless gutters. You know, our construction projects are generally, you know, rather large. I mean, if we go into a house.
Right, it takes a while.
Yeah, most of our renovations are, you know, whole house renovations or, you know, kitchen, bath additions, you know, things like that. Usually when we take on a construction project, it's 3 to 4 months. You know, so we don't have to necessarily, you know, sell a job every day or something.
That's right.
So you know, the overwhelming majority of that was seamless gutters. But on the construction side, I think it was about 10 families last year.
Okay, well that's still awesome. Well, I can attest to the 5-star service of your gutter business because I am a customer, or I was a customer, and you guys did an awesome job. I know.
That's how behind the scenes I am. I don't even know what's going on out there.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. So, what is the biggest challenge for Admire Builders right now?
That's
loaded question.
Yeah, well, it's not a simple answer because it's a lot of different things.
Yep.
You know, we're still having supply chain issues, you know, with material. It's gotten better, but it's not where it was, you know, pre-COVID.
Right.
So, you know, a job that, you know, pre-COVID would take you 3 months may take you 5, you know, 4 or 5 months now. In the height of COVID, when things were really bad, it may take you 6 months to do a 3-month job.
Right, because there was no supplies.
Right. You would try to order a set of windows, for instance, and you may have to wait 3 months, you know, for a set of windows.
Right.
It was really unreal, to tell you the truth. And that hurts us, you know, because, you know, we're not making money unless jobs are moving forward.
That's right.
You know,
Time is money.
So when jobs are sitting still, you know, we're not making money when jobs are sitting still. So that hurts us, and it hurt, you know, a lot of other contractors too.
Yep.
But I would say that's probably the biggest thing right now. You know, as far as work goes, like I said, we don't advertise, and we stay busy. I mean, we've been very fortunate, very blessed, that just our reputation alone has kind of sustained us. So, you know, that's, you know, work is not a problem. Labor, you know, has been a big issue, not just for us, but for everybody.
True, right.
You know, I think that we do have a very good group of guys, you know, on the construction side and the gutter side. Mm-hmm. We've got a really, as a business owner, I am extremely lucky to have the people around me that I do. And that's the honest to God's truth. I don't do it by myself. Yeah. I don't claim to do it by myself.
Right.
I've got a really good group of guys that even when I'm not there, you know, they can keep the ball rolling.
Right, exactly.
But, you know, we try to treat everybody with respect. And really from the onset, it's not really been about building a business as much as it's been about building a family.
Right. Relationships.
Right. And the people that, work, I don't even like to say work for me. I like to say work with me,
That's right.
Because that's just how I look at it. I look at those people as my partners.
Absolutely.
And my family, my work family. I'd go to the ends of the earth for them. And I think they know that,
Right.
but my actions, show that.
Yep.
So I believe that that's, a large part of why, we have such good guys and why they stay
Right.
and want to be with us, because they, we're all young guys. And all those guys are ambitious, they're they're young and hungry, and they look at kind of what we're doing, and they know our future plans, kind of what we've got coming up the pipeline, our 5-10 year plans and things, and they're excited about those things.
Right.
And they know that, what they're doing today might not be what they're doing 5 years from now,
Yes.
As we work towards those goals. But I think they're just, these days, especially, the younger people,
Right.
they don't want a job as much as they want a purpose.
Exactly.
They want something that they can go to work every day and they believe in what they're doing.
And feel like they kind of contributed
right.
to the overall big grand scheme of
Exactly.
things.
At the end of the day, they want to go home and feel like they made a difference somewhere, with
Yes.
somebody. And
Not just punching a clock.
that's right. So, we've recognized that, from the onset, and
Yeah.
we knew that this is kind of what we needed to build. And we need to take care of the people that we've got. And, I tell my guys all the time, I wish, if the day comes I can pay you $100 an hour, I swear I'll do it,
Yes. Yes.
because I really want to see my people succeed and do well,
Absolutely.
So, that's just kind of how we've built the business, really. I mean, as a family, I know that's, it's a little different than, your traditional business structure,
Right.
I think, but,
Well, it's obviously working.
that's the way I look at it.
y'all found
Something's
the magic
working.
sauce.
Yeah, we've got, like I said, we've attracted some really good people,
Right.
that believe in what we're doing. So I'm really fortunate there. But I do understand that labor is an issue. When it comes to us, labor is an issue when
Right.
it comes to trying to contract out things. There's just not as many people doing. Like your family, had a drywall background.
Right.
There's not many people doing that sort of stuff anymore.
I know. Everybody's educated and wearing suits, and nobody knows how to do the basic stuff anymore.
That's exactly right, and I think that's really that has played a large role, I think, in the housing situation that we have right now.
True. Yeah. I can see that.
Houses really aren't getting built fast enough, at the rate that they need to be built to keep up with, population.
Demand, right.
And, generation, Gen Z before the millennials?
Don't ask me.
Gen X, whatever the generation was before the millennials, that generation and the millennial generation, which is my generation, there's been fewer and fewer people going into trades,
Right.
electrical, plumbing, insulation, drywall, HVAC. There's just been fewer and fewer people going into these trades, and which to me is a real missed opportunity for a lot of younger people.
Absolutely.
A huge missed opportunity.
I think, back, I'm a little bit older than you, but not much. But it's not that people were looked down on who held those jobs, but they just weren't held in enough esteem, in my opinion, looking back. Of course, I was younger back then, but when our generation or our culture was pushing education, and now if somebody can do those things, it's like they're a superstar. It's like, you know how to do plumbing? You know how to do electrical? Wow, that's amazing.
You can just about name
my
your
dad was he hung sheetrock all of my life growing up, and there's not many people that aren't older who know how to do that kind of stuff anymore that I run across, and so it's a dying art along with a lot of things, and I can see where that would make your life a little tougher when you're trying to
it is
help people.
because it's not just us out there doing it. There's construction going on all over the place, and electricians, the tradesmen. They're stretched thin. They're doing all they can do to keep up. And, you know, they can't find help. You know, a lot of those guys that I talk to, you know, they're out there doing it themselves because they can't find people to help them. You know, they may hire somebody and they last, you know, a couple weeks or so, and then, you know, they're out. If they do stay in the trade, they tend to gravitate more towards new construction because it's a little cleaner. When you get into renovation for plumbers and electricians and HVAC guys,
yeah, you kind of don't know what you're getting into.
Yeah, I
until
mean,
you're
you could be crawling underneath houses. You know, it's a lot more of a dirty job, I guess.
More manly job.
Yeah, and tougher job. And so the trades people that I talk to that are business owners, you know, that's the problem that they're having is that they can't keep help. And the help that they do have, they don't want to do that type of work. So, you know, when they're having labor issues, you know, then that trickles to us, you know, because we rely on them a lot.
Yep. So I know going into a little bit of a different direction, you and I had a conversation, a really good conversation that I hope we can get back to on today's show. But when you were talking about supply and demand and interest rates and the economy, and so interest rates are up a little bit, and it's got everybody tore up because everybody wants to pay 2% interest rate on their house. And we were just talking about how that's good if you've got a mortgage payment, but it really affects our economy in other ways, in a negative way. Like, in other words, that money's going to come through somehow, some way.
Sure.
So tell me a little bit more about that. Share your knowledge and expertise
Yeah,
on the economy stuff.
I've heard, you know, I hear a lot about that, you know, interest rates. And like you said, people kind of have most people in the market today looking to buy a house, they really weren't old enough to care when 2008 happened.
Right. Crash.
So they don't really remember, you know, kind of what rates were around that time and even historically speaking.
Right.
And I think it was Lee Howell you had on, you know, kind of touched on. I was watching that, and he kind of touched on rates, you know, and how all that stuff works. And I mean, he hit the nail on the head. Historically speaking, you know, we don't have a rate problem. You know, the rate is not really the problem. The problem is supply. You know, there's not enough houses out there for people. So, you know, that's the situation that's driving up, you know, home prices. You know, so it's not a rate problem right now. It's a rate problem combined with higher, you know, housing prices that people just can't afford. You know, when my wife and I purchased our first house in, I think it was 2007, we had a 7% interest rate. But if we had to buy that house today at what it's valued at a 7% interest rate, we couldn't have afforded it. Right. You know, so
kind of balances itself
that's
out.
right. You know, hopefully, you know, I think a lot of people, or some people, may be waiting on, you know, housing prices to come down. I don't know.
They will? Based off what you're learning?
Look, to really understand what's going on, people really need to kind of we need to go back to, you know, 2008 is really kind of where it all started, you know. So if we can kind of jump on the magic school bus, so to speak, and go back in time and you know, look at 2008, you know, interest rates were between 6 and 6.35, 6.4, you know, something like that.
And it really didn't make the news like it does now.
No. And then you had the financial crash, you know, where all the banks, everybody knows about that, you know, had a financial crisis. But what most people don't realize is there were already a shortage of contractors leading up to 2008.
Gotcha.
And when 2008 happened and the markets crashed, a lot of contractors went out of business. Or they found other work, you know, they got retrained and maybe became a police officer or, you know, something else.
Gotcha.
They found other work.
Gotcha.
Because housing came to a standstill just about.
Yep.
So, you know, all these contractors kind of went out of business, and for the next decade, kind of getting back to the millennial generation and the generation before us, whatever that was.
Yeah, whatever all those generations
I think it was
are titled.
Gen X or
My
something.
son
Anyway.
calls me a boomer, but I'm not a boomer, but he calls me one.
For the next decade after 2008, because of the shortage of contractors, houses were not being built at the rate that they needed to be built to keep up with the population increase.
Right, because people are living longer, people are having more kids, and the population is just growing.
Exactly. So, okay, so you've already got, a shortage of houses as it is. They're not being built at a fast enough pace. Then enter the millennial generation, my generation, the largest generation, I believe it is. All of us started kind of hitting the market looking for a place to buy and settle down, which, further created a shortage of supply that, gradually kind of got worse and worse. And then, about the time really that I would say contractors started kind of getting their feet under them and started realizing what was happening, COVID happened. So, then you take COVID and everybody's shut in and people are kind of looking around at their house and they're like, I don't really like this place anymore. I want to build a new house, or I want to buy another house, or we want to move, or we want to add on, or we want to do this, we want to do that. That coupled with, people, they weren't spending as much money because you couldn't go out and do a whole lot. Stimulus checks were being passed out. People had some money. They had more money than what they were used to having, and everybody wanted a new place,
Right.
So it just kind of created this extreme bottleneck.
Right, I was just going to say that.
For houses.
Right.
And of course, COVID drove the price of everything up. That's, people hear about inflation, and that's kind of where we're living right now. Everything is way too expensive.
Right.
Because there was so much money out there that everybody wanted to buy things, and when there's not enough things out there for everybody to buy, those things become more expensive. Right. So, COVID drove prices up, and, affordable houses really, a lot of your new construction, I'm not going to say in this area particularly, but we'll say nationally speaking, a lot of your affordable houses, spec houses, this and that, the cost of building those was so expensive that a lot of contractors didn't want to build them because their margins, were a lot smaller on trying to build those houses because of inflation. So you kind of had a decline in affordable houses being built, so it was really just kind of this big soup that had been stirring for a long time. But that is pretty much what has brought us to, like, how did we get here? How did we get to this point? And that's more or less how we have got to this point. Now, as far, like we said, we don't really have an interest rate problem. And your question was, do I think housing prices are going to go down?
Or level out?
Yeah. The supply issue is not going anywhere.
Right.
It's not going anywhere for the foreseeable future. That's going to be a problem. So, barring some sort of really bad recession or depression, I don't see housing prices coming down a whole lot, because with the high prices and the higher interest rates, you have taken a lot of people out of the market, sure. But there's also a lot more people in the market to start with. So,
Right, so you really haven't put that much of a dent.
Yeah, you haven't taken that many people out of the equation.
I think I actually watched a webinar, and I mentioned it in another podcast. It was about 10% of the population nationally that are unable to afford a house right now.
Yeah.
So that's 90% of us still out here that can buy.
And it's tough.
Deal.
I mean, I feel for them. I didn't really realize how bad the housing situation was until I saw a video of an open house viewing in Raleigh.
Okay.
And the vehicles were lined up around the block. I bet there were 50 vehicles.
Right.
And I looked at that and I thought, my gosh.
I couldn't imagine being a real estate agent.
Yeah, how distressing is that and discouraging is that for people in that line?
Right.
You know, who are looking for a house, and well, you know, if they get there and they get inside and they like the house, what are they going to do? They're going to throw however much they're pre-approved for. That's what they're going to throw at this house, and it may be well over what the house is worth, but that's what people are doing. You know, they're throwing everything at these houses, and that's what's driving the prices up. And I don't know if I see that really changing anytime soon. You know, I know that home prices have come down a little bit since rates have gone up, but how much more they're going to come down, I really don't know. I just personally don't see them coming down a whole lot.
Right.
You know, I think the best we can kind of hope for is maybe interest rates coming down some.
Which they have, and they're trickling down a little bit thanks to
Yeah,
Silicon Valley Bank.
Yeah, we've had some
Crash.
banks go under, and the inflation report they got out yesterday was a little better than I think they were expecting.
Right.
So, you know, I think they were talking. The Fed was talking about raising the basis points. I think half a point the end of this month, and I think they had talked about 2 other quarter point increases. You know, so basically between now and the end of the year, they were talking about raising it another point. You know, I think best case scenario, most people that I'm hearing, you know, say they think maybe instead of the Fed raising it a half a point, they may raise it a quarter point.
Right.
I think best case scenario, they just kind of sit still and take their foot off the gas and just kind of see how things trickle out,
Right.
you know, until
Kinda
they
let the dust settle a little
yeah,
bit.
they meet again in May. I think May and June they meet again, and you know, so I think best case scenario, maybe they
Right.
just kind of, you know, take their foot off the throttle and see how some things level out. But you know, like I say, it's a tough situation. I mean, there's no clear answer for
Right.
people. You know,
Right. And I think that's what everybody wants, and there's just not one.
everybody has to make their own choice and their own decision. You know, if you were to ask me if now was a good time to buy a house short term, I would probably say no. You know, it's probably not a good time to buy one short term because so much can happen in such a short period of time.
Right.
We've got a lot of things going on in the world, you know, on the world stage, not just in this country.
Right.
We've got a lot of things happening on the world stage that can affect us here. So short term, nobody knows what's going to happen. Now, if you're talking about buying a house and this is your forever home, you know, 20, 30 years, then, you know, in my opinion, you know, I'm an investor, so, you know, it's kind of like buying a stock, you know, investing in a company.
Right.
I don't really care what happens in the next, you know, 2-3 months or a year. You know, if I believe in the company and what they're doing, you know, I'm looking past that.
Right, long term.
Right, and that's what I'm focused on. So, you know, I guess it kind of boils down to, do you want a house or not?
Right,
you know,
absolutely.
and how long do you plan on being there? Because I mean, you can always refinance down the road into a lower rate if it does, you know, come down, and it probably will at some point. But
Yeah,
I don't
think
know that
we'll get to the 2s and 3s again,
No.
but I think we'll see maybe 4.5.
I think those days are probably over.
And they need to be.
They do. I personally, I think that the Fed, you know, should keep it, you know, about where it is right now. Maybe a little lower. But you know, inflation is a hidden tax on people, and they don't realize it. Right. You know, you're paying a lot more for goods and services, but on top of that, you're paying sales tax. You know, so
Exactly.
you know, everything that you're buying that is a lot more expensive than it was before, you're paying sales tax on that. You know, and it's you know, like in the 80s, you know, when interest rates were 17-18%, you know, that was it sounds like an extraordinary number, but you could build a house for like $30,000-$40,000.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
things were a lot less expensive then. And if you look at, if you just look at the charts and the trends, you know, that kind of track, you know, interest rates, the Fed rate, you know, the cost of living, you know, and as these rates go down, the cost of everything goes up. So, You know, I personally think that, you know, interest rates are a good thing. It kind of keeps everything at bay. But you know, the other thing a lot of people have been wrestling with that are, you know, out there looking for a home that they really haven't had to contend with in the past is institutional investors. You know, there has been a large increase. I think from 2020 to 2021, there was an 85% increase in institutional investors buying these houses that were on the market.
Right.
In 2022, it went up again. You know, a lot of these houses that were on the market, these institutional investors were buying them up.
Right.
And they've got cash, so they don't care what the interest rates are.
Exactly.
You know, so if I'm sitting out there, you know, and I want to buy a house, you know, again, I'm weighing all these things out, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, if home prices do come down, who am I going to have to compete with to get that house? You know, right now, you know, a lot of those houses are, you know, really kind of out of the reach for a lot of investors. You know, they're looking at a return on their investment, and right now they're just too expensive for that.
Right.
But if home prices come down, you know, and you get what you want, you know, say, you know, we're sitting around waiting for home prices to come down. Well, if they do come down to a certain attractive level, you're going to have a lot bigger, you know, pool of competition there that you're trying to deal with.
Exactly.
And personally, what I think is going to happen, I think right now you've got a lot of, you know, kind of pent up demand. You know, people need a house that hasn't gone anywhere. Mm-hmm. You know, people still need somewhere to live. And I think a lot of people are just kind of sitting on their hands right now to see what's going to happen. But I think if interest rates go back down any at all, or housing prices come down any at all, I think it's gonna be a free for all.
Right.
So
round
you know,
two.
Those are just things that you have to think about if you're, you know, thinking about buying a house. But you know, that kind of ties into how you and I got started talking in the beginning. Was about, you know, these programs, these 203K loan programs, where mortgage companies, you know, will loan people the money to purchase a house and renovate it.
Right.
And there's pros and cons to that, you know, which, you know, you would gladly explain to them if they would talk to you.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think a lot of people are looking for these move-in ready houses.
Right.
And, you know, I believe are houses on the market that sort of, you know, people kind of turn their nose up at them because they need a lot of work.
Right.
And people just assume, I think, that you've got to have cash, you know, the money on hand to do that.
That's true.
And that's why I really, really like those programs. And that was kind of why I reached out to you to find out why, you know, I don't really hear anything about 203K loans from, you know, clients, from mortgage companies, from realtors.
Right.
And to me, as a mortgage officer or a realtor, those programs are another tool in your tool belt.
Absolutely.
You know,
I think it's a great program.
Yeah, when you come across a house that needs a lot of renovation, you know, as a realtor, you know, at least the ones I've talked to, a lot of times they're a little bit more hesitant, you know, to try to take those houses and sell them because they realize that it may be kind of difficult, you know. But
I think you got to have the right client who can kind of look at this house that needs a little love and say, oh, you know, I can envision this, and this, but I don't know how to do that stuff. And so that's where we come along as lenders to say, oh, there's a renovation loan out there. You can borrow. It's amazing because you're borrowing money based on the future value of the home.
Right.
So that's a big risk for the lender, but when they have trusted builders like you who they can connect with and they look you up one side and down the other, make sure you can do this as a builder and as a buyer, and then it just turns out to be a beautiful combination of this money and this opportunity, and then you got people like you that can make it all come together. And no, your house isn't brand new technically, but by the time you guys get done with it, you've made this house, you've brought it back to life and then some, and it's updated, it's turnkey, and you didn't spend as much money as you would if you bought a brand new house or built a brand new house.
Right. And, you know, if you're out there, you're trying to find the perfect house that's move-in ready, and hopefully, the people that renovated it before you had the same taste as you.
Right.
So I feel like there's a lot of things that you're trying to have line up there, where you could take a fixer-upper and make it what you want it to be. Right. But I think a lot of people are scared of renovations, and I completely understand. I hear horror story after horror story of these projects gone wrong. And usually that boils down to people not having the experience really necessary to take on those projects.
Right. Or do-it-yourselfers.
Yep, exactly. Or, we'll get my buddies together and we'll all,
right.
get a 6-pack of natural lights and we'll go to town over here,
We're going to renovate this loan.
Yeah,
renovate this home together.
Right, and there's a lot more to it than that. And, and I'm not saying that to try to drum up business,
No, yeah.
Because, like I said,
keeping it real.
Yeah, we stay busy. I'm not here to drum up business. But contractors like us, who specialize in renovations, we can handle the process.
Right.
You as a homeowner may be intimidated by this project, but we are not.
That's right.
This is what we do every day. We tear things apart and put it back together. And we're very good at it.
Right.
And any contractor who specializes in renovations, is going to be good at it. And that's why you seek out those contractors, who have a good reputation and specialize, in what it is you're trying to achieve.
Right.
Who has the team around them to handle something like that. And when you do have a contractor like that, and you've got a good mortgage lender, and you've got the right house, it's not that bad.
It's a win-win. When you've got the professionals doing everything for you, you just sit back as the home buyer or homeowner. For me, I need the home buyers. For you, you'll take either one. But you sit back and let the professionals do their work, and 3 to 4 months, you've got your dream home. Yeah. And you didn't have to build it from the ground up.
Yeah, and it's not that stressful, especially if you're not going to live there,
True.
Now, if you're going to try to live in the property while it's being renovated, that's a whole other conversation that we have with clients up front, because there's just no way to prepare people for the stresses of that.
Right.
And this is something that it sounds like I'm trying to discourage people from it, but it's not that. I just want people to be prepared for what they're getting into, and I don't want them to say, well, you didn't tell us it was going to be like this. But, a lot of people are not cut out for renovations, and that's something we prefer to find out up front.
Right.
Because
good information
we're not interested in fighting with you throughout the process or being your enemy by the time it's over with.
Right.
That's not what we want. We want a well-educated, informed customer who understands, has realistic goals, realistic expectations, realistic timelines, budgets, the whole nine, and they enjoy the process. Yes. And by the time we're done with it, we're the hero. That's really how we want to end the whole thing, is being the hero. But a lot of people are not cut out for that. And I actually asked one of our customers not too long ago. I said, how could I, because they lived there throughout the process, and it was stressful for them, and I completely understand. I know it is. I said, how can I better prepare people who are going to try to live in their home while they're renovating it? Now, when I say renovating, I'm talking about you've got no kitchen, you've got no dining room.
For a few months. You
may not even have a bathroom or two.
Right.
We're talking major renovation. How can I better prepare people for what they're going to experience, He said, I don't think there is anything you can tell people to really prepare them for it. But we do tell people, if you're thinking about renovating your kitchen, for instance, take a couple weeks and pretend you don't have it. If you're thinking about renovating this bathroom, pretend you don't have it for a couple weeks and just kind of get a taste of that, because it's really the little things that you don't think about,
Right. It's like getting a paper cut on your pinky. You don't realize how much you use your pinky until you got an injury.
Exactly.
So you probably don't realize how many times you touched your kitchen cabinet or walked through your kitchen to throw something away until you can't.
That's exactly right. And that when you don't want it to set in once you're already in the project, you know.
Right, because then that's the added frustration.
That's a bad time for those type of things to set in on you. So, you know, like I said, not every person, you know, is the perfect candidate for a renovation. But, you know, if you are and you're up to the task, and you can find a good reputable contractor to take on the project, you know, if you're leaving houses on the table or on the market that just because they need renovation, you're missing opportunities as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. So tell us maybe about a transaction. I know you're behind the scenes guy, but I still feel like you're pretty involved. Is there a transaction that sticks out that was meaningful to you personally?
I'm not going to say one I can think of a lot. I would say that kind of backing up to Hurricane Florence when it came through. Those homes that we renovated, like I said, we did a lot of those renovations for less than what we should have, and that was a period of time that we didn't make a lot of money, you know.
Right.
But you know, I guess we're too kind-hearted.
I was going to say, is that because you guys just were?
Yeah, I mean, it was
feelings?
just tough. Look, when we were renovating houses in New Bern, Beaufort, Jacksonville, we were all over the place. And when that came through and the devastation that it caused, we had to take our phone off the hook because it was ringing 6, 7, 8 times a day, and people would beg you, please come put my house back together.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
And we would have to say, you know, we can't help you. We can't take on any more work. And it got to the point it broke our heart so much having to turn people away and tell them no, that we just took the phone off the hook to keep from doing it.
Right.
And, you know, of course, I mean, there's other contractors in this area that we think a great deal of, you know, that do very good work. And, you know, and even to this day, you know, if there's something we can't get to, we're too busy, we'll send that to them.
Yeah, you'll refer them.
And, you know, and they may be too busy for it too, but we at least send them that way.
Right.
But, you know, everybody was busy, you know, so there was really nowhere to send them because you knew there was nobody else to take on the work.
Yep.
So, you know, people sat with their houses vacant and empty. You know, companies, you know, mitigation companies would have gone in and maybe removed drywall, you know, things that had gotten wet, drywall, carpet, flooring, you know, things like that. And a lot of those houses sat that way, you know, for 6, 8 months because nobody could get to them to do anything. And I remember going to Beaufort to look at a couple projects down there, and we drove into this neighborhood, you know, kind of one of these cul-de-sac neighborhoods, you know, houses on both sides.
Right.
And, when we turned on that street, lining the side of the street where you know, sidewalks on both sides, you couldn't see the sidewalks for carpet, insulation, drywall, where homeowners on this street were doing it themselves because they could not get anybody out there to help mitigate their home. And they knew it couldn't sit that way because mold and mildew and all these things, you know, so they were just doing they were just doing the best that they could. And I just remember turning on that street and seeing that. And I was like, my gosh, look at this. I mean, this is terrible.
Right.
And just feeling like all these people needed help and there was absolutely nothing you could do about it.
Right. There just weren't enough hands to go around.
Yeah,
time in the day.
It was terrible. But for me personally, that was really kind of a transformative moment in, you know, what direction do we want to take this company?
Right.
And, you know, we wanted to help people put their houses back together, but not in that way.
But you wanted to do it with, like you said, integrity, quality.
Exactly. So for me personally, that was kind of a, you know, I guess a direction-changing moment because it really was during that time that we found out a lot of contractors don't like to do renovations.
Yeah.
You know, we really didn't know that before, but Hurricane Florence kind of exposed that for us, and you know, we don't like to compete with anybody. We don't try to compete with anybody. There's plenty of work out there for everybody.
Right,
and
that's
like
how I feel too on my side of the world.
Like I said, if
plenty
there's
of business to go around.
Yeah, I mean, we'll send work to, you know, another contractor in a minute, you know.
Right.
But you know, that was kind of the moment, I guess, that showed us, you know, that there was a big hole.
Right.
A big hole in the market. You know, a lot of people don't want to do this because of all the unknowns that you're going to get into. And so that really kind of helped, I guess, shape where we are today.
Cool.
You know, we've focused more, or we've kind of become a renovation specialist, but we are trying to grow into a renovation specialist with a focus on new emerging technology.
Oh, yeah. I remember you talking to me about that.
You know, there are a lot of new products kind of coming on the market that are really, really interesting.
Right. Give me some examples of what you're talking about
so,
and being innovative in your industry.
Well, everybody knows kind of what a pocket door is, I guess.
Yeah,
you
I
know,
love
the
pocket
door
doors.
that hides away in the wall.
Right.
They have some out now that kind of remind you of like Star Trek or Star Wars or something. As you approach the door, it automatically opens and closes when you walk past it.
Cool.
There's a nanotechnology company that is working on wall paint that you paint this, you know, paint your wall, and then you can change the color of it with your phone.
Oh my gosh. I'll definitely be painting my house with that. I love to change up some paint right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's I'm drawing a blank now because there's so much stuff out there, but
I think we had talked before, maybe like even sinks or just all kinds of different products.
just really neat designs.
Like a smart home or something.
Right.
Is that kind of where it's going?
Yeah. So, you know, we're not experts, you know, in emerging technology, but what I'm saying is we're trying to put more of a focus on that.
Is that kind of your goal or a big part of your goals for 2023? Get more involved in that?
Yeah, we want to get more involved in, you know, these new emerging products that are coming out, so that we can, you know, pass it on to customers. I mean, a lot of people don't even realize what is out there.
Absolutely.
You know, what's available.
That's cool.
So, you know, a lot of that stuff is, you know, at the Home Builder Association expos, and
I was just going to ask, how do you find out about all that cool stuff?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, you know, we're going to start trying to be more involved in those things, you know, and try to really get well versed in these new emerging technologies and how to install them and things like that. Because again, that's just something that we're all kind of geeks, you know,
Hey,
when it comes to things like that. So
it's the world we live in where everybody wants to, you know, have an electronic world of not just your phone, but like you said, a door that opens when you're approaching it in your home. I mean, that's super cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of things like that, and you know, there's, you know, we don't, like I said before, we don't really do a lot of new construction. I mean, we can and we have, but as far as building houses and things like that, I mean, we usually turn those things away, you know, because we just prefer to do what we enjoy. But there are some pretty interesting new construction concepts, you know, that I feel like are coming up the pipeline.
Into a home that's already
established. That I'm watching really closely, and I'll be very curious to see where that goes, because I feel like the answer to the housing crisis that we have, the housing shortage, so to speak, really, I mean, it just like the economy is an extremely complex animal.
Right.
Extremely complex. But I feel like, you know, more people, you know, we're talking about not competing with others. I want more people to go into construction.
Yes.
You know, having more people in that field, you know, younger people wanting to be carpenters and general contractors and electricians, plumbers, getting more people in the workforce, you know, to help speed up. I've seen different numbers, but, you know, I've seen we're anywhere from like 5 million to 6 million houses short right now in this country.
Incomprehensible.
That's a massive, that's why I said earlier, it's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
You know, getting more people involved in construction to help speed up this process is part of it. But I think new emerging technology, new ways of doing things, new ways of building houses that is faster, more affordable. I think those things, and there's a lot of different concepts out there. One that I'm particularly interested in is the 3D printed houses. And
wow! I
that's
connect
something
you with my friend Zach.
that's something I've been watching closely for quite a while. And I hope that maybe one day that's something that we're even involved in here locally. But it's still very new. A lot of in the areas that they are building these homes, there's issues, with home inspectors and
right, because they probably don't have the knowledge of
building
those things.
not home inspectors, building inspectors, local code enforcement officers. This is new to them. Right. They've never had to go out, to and inspect a 3D printed home or approve a building permit for a 3D printed home.
Right.
And I've actually got some photos that I'll email you. I don't know when you guys put this video up, you might can show a few of them, but
that would be cool.
That to me is something that people should be paying attention to as well. Because if there's not an interest in it, then there's really not a market for it. Right. So educating people on things like that. But I mean, it's basically it's a 3D printed house. They're printing with concrete, and they're printing houses in it's, at least from the foundation to the walls.
Right.
They're completing these projects in a third of the time that it takes to traditionally construct one, and about a third of the cost.
Wow.
So it's much faster, it's much cheaper, and you've got a concrete house. You know what I mean? It's a concrete wall house. And I know when I say that, people, their mind's all over the place. They don't know what it looks like. But again, if you can show some of those pictures, the houses look really nice. You can leave the pattern in them, and Zach would know what I'm talking about. When you 3D print, if you really zoom in on it, you can see the little ridges on things. But it's concrete, so you can get out there and do like a stucco finish on it. You can paint it,
right,
whatever color you want. Yep. And it's extremely strong, durable, much stronger than
wood.
Stick framed house, much stronger. So that's something I'm really paying attention to. I think things like that can really help.
Absolutely.
Because that's really the problem right now. We don't have enough people building houses, and especially affordable houses.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people that are building houses, they want to. I mean, they're in to make money just like everybody else.
I mean, none of us are working for free.
Yeah, if you can't make money building, these houses, you're not going to build them.
That's right.
And but it, unfortunately, it leaves a large portion of the population, without somewhere to live.
Right. Or own it.
Right. So, the affordable housing issue is something that, we really have got to figure out a way to solve. And, I think things like that could really be important moving forward.
Absolutely. I look forward to having you on in the future as you learn more about that, to keep my audience educated on that stuff as well as myself.
Done quite a bit of research on it, but I would love to see one. I would love to be able to put my hands on one and kind of see the process. But if Admired Builders starts building houses, it will be houses like that. Cool. Or something new, different. Right. To try to reach that market. The affordable housing.
I can see that being very attractive to the millennial generation, a home built like that.
Yeah.
So if you were not the CEO of Admired Builders, what would you be doing?
My kids are going to laugh at me for this. But I would probably be into archaeology.
Okay.
I am fascinated by the past. Not caught up in it, but I'm intrigued by it. Some of the things that they're uncovering, and digging up, seem to kind of contradict, the mainstream history narrative that we've, kind of always been.
Imagine that.
Yeah. And don't mean to sound conspiratorial or anything, but there's just, they're finding things that we can't really explain. And I'm fascinated by those things. I'm fascinated by our history, where we came from, and I don't see how you can really, I know it sounds nerdy, but in my mind, I don't see how you can really understand where you are now if you don't understand how you got here.
Right.
You know, so you always kind of have to look back and say, how do we get to this point?
Yes.
And I think that's why history and archaeology and things like that really fascinate me. I would love to go to some of these archaeological digs and, you know, some of these cities, if I can pronounce it right, I think it's Göbekli Tepe. They've, you know, excavated this city that was, it seems that it was intentionally buried about 10,000 years ago, 8 to 10,000 years, something like that. But it's a pretty sophisticated concrete block city, or not concrete, but stone.
Right.
And supposedly at that time, you know, we were just running around with bow and arrows, you know, didn't have that type of mental capacity to do those things. So, you know, things like that, the pyramids, you know, I would love to just kind of be able to put my hand on the pyramid and look at it, you know.
Right.
So if, you know, I'm hoping one day, you know, I'll be able to retire and maybe I'll have, you know, enough money set back
right.
that I'll be able to do some of these things. But yeah, if I wasn't doing this, if I could say, you know, go live my dream and do whatever I wanted to do, it would be something like that. I'd be exploring our human past.
Well, I think that's super interesting. But thank you so much for coming on the show today and sharing all your knowledge and helping me get the word out about renovation loans and renovation construction. And so if anybody out there is interested in learning more or talking to you, or what'd you say your guy's name? Tony. And just seeing what you offer. First of all, tell us your website, because your website is amazing. All the work you guys have done is just really beautiful.
Admiredbuilders.com. We've got a Facebook page, of course.
Oh, okay.
A YouTube channel that, you know, we've started trying to put some of our work on YouTube.
Awesome.
But yeah, I mean, if they want to see our work, that's really the best place to go. And you know, all of our contact information's on the website and on the Facebook page. And
so what's Admired Builders' phone number?
252-686-5058.
Perfect.
And like I said, Tony will answer. If he doesn't, he'll call you right back.
Right.
He's probably
customer service.
Yeah, he's probably carrying a 2x4 or something, you know. But he'll call you right back. And you know, there's a lot of things, a lot of information we can give over the phone if people just don't really know where to start, have no idea. You know, about renovations, the process, you know, all that stuff. We can tell them a lot over the phone.
Oh, nice. I think that's awesome. And if you need a renovation loan, I work with several lenders who offer that product, and it is a great product. You're borrowing money based off the future value of the home after it's renovated, so it's super cool, and you just hire a professional like Admired Builders, and they do everything, and then you get the key and move in. So
That's right.
I'm Kristen Goyette with Motto Mortgage Complete, 252-560-8632. We'll see you on the next episode.